Do you guys remember an individual from back in the Anti-SJW YouTube days that would hang out with people like Sargon and Andy Worski and all those guys in like the internet blood sports right-wing section of YouTube? And he was heavily defended by them, and he was considered like one of their head trolls, and like he was friends with all of them. He was always in their streams and everything. Destiny even debated him a few times, and they always consider him a troll. And one of the things that he would trollingly argue in favor of, and on top of, very racist things, of course, because he was an anti-SJW type or very, very right-wing individual, Amos Yee would ironically and jokingly argue in favor of lowering the age of consent and adults fucking children. That was something he'd frequently, trollingly bring up very often. And of course, all those right-wingers, even Sargon of Akkad, the well-known Sargon of Akkad, defended this individual, Amos Yee, and so did broadly the anti-SJW community for quite a while, until very recently. So here's a clip from 2017, back when Amos Yee was much more respected, called Controversial Blogger Amos Yee Invited to Speak at Harvard. Because for those of you guys that don't know, Harvard is a pretty right-wing college, and typically, Ben Shapiro, a lot of right-wing figures like Ben Shapiro are from Harvard. They do invite a lot of right-wing public figures to speak at Harvard pretty often, and Amos Yee was one of them. So let's go ahead and see what this particular little thing from 2017 had to say about that controversial blogger Amos Yee being invited to speak at Harvard.
18-year-old controversial Singaporean blogger Amos Yee has been invited to speak in his first ever public talk at Harvard University on November 13th. Posting on his YouTube account, Yee said the event, entitled Jailed for Dissent, an open conversation with Amos Yee, would be open to the public.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. Apparently some people from Harvard are so impressed by my work of bashing the Singapore government and the Quran and getting arrested for that they invited me to give a talk at Harvard. Harvard booked a completely free hotel and plane ticket for me.
According to Yee, the talk organized by the Harvard College Open Campus Initiative will be mostly a question and answer format, which allows him to have a two-way conversation with the attendees. He made headlines when he was charged in Singapore in 2015 for engaging in religious hate speech and for publishing an obscene image of former Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew. He was eventually convicted and given a 4-week jail sentence. Last year, Yee travelled to Chicago in December seeking political asylum and was routinely detained. Although he was granted asylum, Yee ended up being in detention for 9 months after the Department of Homeland Security contested that he should be kept in detention for the duration of the legal proceedings.
So, following that whole drama, Amos Yee became a symbol of free speech to the anti-SJW community. The timing of when he had spoken out against the Singaporean government and when he had specifically spoken out against Islam and really just shitting on Islam and the Quran was really popular in 2016 because there was this idea within the right that there was a double standard that the left was pushing in regards to Islam. The idea that it's okay if you have horrible regressive beliefs if you're Muslim, but if you're Christian, then it's not okay. That was the argument they were making, which is of course ridiculous because obviously the left isn't in favor of Islamic extremism. We weren't in favor of the super far right ideas of the Taliban. I was pretty against the Taliban, I like to think, and they have very, very far right ideas, right? I don't think the left is giving people who are brown and happen to be Muslim the pass because they're brown. But because of their beliefs, I don't think that's what's happening. But that was a really, really popular idea that the right pushed super duper hard back in 2016. If you were there for it, you remember it. The right pushed that idea super duper hard. The left was super contradictory when it came to Islam and the beliefs that can come with that religious idea. Anyway, so with all that said, Amos Yee, after all of that, blew up to be this big darling, the sweetheart of the online right back in 2017 to 2018, around that time. And he was the symbol of free speech. He appeared on all of the right-wing blood sports shows, and they defend the shit out of him and just say he's a troll when he would make arguments in favor of lowering the age of consent or owning child porn. When he'd make arguments in favor of fucking children, lowering the age of consent, owning child porn, all those things, people like Sargon specifically defended Amos Yee. I want to remind you of that. Keep that in your head. Sargon of Akkad and all those right-wing YouTubers, they all defended Amos Yee. A bunch of them did. Not Sean Head or Chris Reagan, though. I'll clarify, they didn't back in the day. They did not defend him. Sean Head definitely did not defend Amos Yee. She's made several videos on him. But a lot lot of those, like the Sargon and Worski area of the right, they defended him hardcore. So let's go ahead and see how he's doing today. Singaporean blogger Amos Yee sentenced to 6 years in jail in the U.S. for child pornography and grooming. As Sargon of Akkad says, I guess it doesn't depend on the age of the child. Sargon was wrong. Anyway, or it depends on the child. Sorry, not the age. It depends on the child is what Sargon said. Washington. Singaporean blogger Amos Yee was sentenced by a U.S. court on Tuesday, December 2nd, to 6 years in jail after he pled guilty to 2 charges of child pornography and grooming. It is, by the way, he has been in jail for... So here's the thing. Amos Yee, I believe, is not an American citizen, as far as I'm aware. I believe he is still a citizen of Singapore, and I believe that he is supposed to be in prison in Singapore for his crimes in Singapore regarding religious, hate speech. However, I believe here in America, he's now been arrested and will be spending at least 6 years now in American prison because of his pedophilia stuff. So he's got a sentence waiting for him in Singapore, I'm pretty sure, and he's got a sentence he's going to be serving now in America. I gotta say, I do have to admit, the American sentence is probably a little bit more valid than the Singaporean one. I think the possession of child porn and the grooming of a minor is perhaps maybe just a tiny bit more serious and worthy of prison time than criticizing Islam. Maybe just a little bit. Not that much. Maybe just a little bit. Maybe just a little, Any truers in chat? Maybe just a little bit more valid of a charge here in America, the child porn stuff. Just a little, Anyway, Yee, 23 years old, was also ordered by the Chicago court not to contact the victim, who was then 14 years old, for 2 years after his release from jail. Yee had also faced 16 other child pornography-related charges, which were dismissed as part of a plea deal he accepted. Jesus Christ, they were going to give him a lot of time in prison. If they were hitting him with 16 other child pornography-related charges and he took a 6-year plea deal, then they were probably giving him decades in prison, and he took a 6-year plea deal because it was either he goes the 6 years or he's spending decades in prison. Those were his options if he took that plea deal. According to the first charge of child pornography, he solicited, persuaded, and induced the victim to appear on video and other mediums and pose, which involved lewd behavior between February and July in 2019. The charge, a Class 1 felony and second most serious type of offense under Illinois criminal law, carried a prison sentence of at least 4 years and up to 15 years. According to the second charge of grooming, Yee unknowingly used WhatsApp to seduce, solicit, and lure the victim to pose for photographs, which he distributed on WhatsApp over the same period. Or Yee knowingly, not unknowingly, sorry. That charge had a minimum jail term of 1 year and a maximum of 3 years. Yee, who appeared in court via video link, was advised by Judge Carol Howard that pleading guilty to the charges meant he could be deported, denied admission to the U.S., or denied naturalization as a U.S. citizen in the future. The convictions could also affect his ability to obtain housing, employment, and other licenses, including a driver's license, she added. Yee, who wore a surgical face mask and orange prison jumpsuit, replied that he understood. Yee, who spent most of the hearing replying to questions with yes or no answers, declined to speak when the judge asked if he had anything to say before she imposed his sentence. The judge, as well as his public defender, both wished him luck at the end of the hearing, which lasted about 20 minutes. Yee was 20 at the time of his offense and living in Cook County, Chicago. Yee met the victim in February 2019 over the Riot Chat app, beginning an online courtship, and said Assistant State's Attorney Marcel Taylor. Hey, like Marcellus Wallace. Kind of similar name. He said Yee repeatedly requested that the victim provide him with photos showing naked parts of her body, as well as engaged in role play and sexual fantasies. On several occasions, this offender did, in fact, request that she engage in those role play and sexual fantasies by saying, "Show me your naked body," as well as several questions of that nature, he added. Mr. Taylor said the evidence showed that Yee had been told by the victim that she was 14 at the time of the offense. During a hearing in October last year, a previous prosecutor said Yee and the victim eventually broke up and that he began harassing her after she repeatedly requested that he leave her alone. Yee can appeal but must file a motion within 30 days to withdraw his guilty plea before he can do so. He was previously jailed twice in Singapore for harassment and insulting a religious group in 2015 and for similar charges in 2016. He arrived in the United States in 2016 and was granted asylum in 2017. So, there we go. The free speech darling, that the right-wing free speech darling that was Amos Yee back in 2016 to like 2018, who would repeatedly make comments about wanting to lower the age of consent and how he was in favor of children and adults having sex, which is rape. The right, people like Sargon, all those people always defended him. And now he's serving 6 years in prison for possession of child pornography as well as grooming a 14-year-old. So there you go. I want you to remember stories like this, guys. I want you guys to remember every time a story like this comes out, because you'll notice the right really likes to call the left pedophiles. They love to project the pedophilia accusations on the lefties, usually without any evidence whatsoever other than you're a lefty. But when it comes to these right-wingers, they will defend anybody. They will defend literally Nick Fuentes' fans who've been coming into my stream this whole stream to call me a pedophile. They've defended Nick Fuentes saying the age of consent is a feminist construct that ought to be gotten rid of. Nick Fuentes has said several times that the age of consent is a feminist construct that ought to be gotten rid of. These right-wingers will simultaneously not only enable but defend pedophilia at every turn, and pedophiles themselves, if it serves their political purposes. Not to mention, by the way, I believe in only 4 states here in America is it illegal for a woman under 18 to get married. It is only illegal in 4 U.S. states without the use of any loopholes for an underage girl to marry a grown man. Only in 4 states is it not possible with the use of loopholes. Only in 4 states are the loopholes closed enough that it is not possible here in America for an underage girl to marry an of-age man. And you want to know what states are the ones that push the hardest to preserve that practice of child marriage? All the red states. It's overwhelmingly the red states. Go look up child marriage here in America and look at it. It's the red states overwhelmingly. The Rust Belt, the South, all that, the Midwest. Those are all the areas where child marriage is most rampant. And of course, the politicians that fight to defend these particular policies the most are, of course, the Republican politicians. And then, of course, there's the fact that, like, conservative ideology throughout history has always sexualized young girls specifically. I mean, even today, your average Republican, your average conservative figure talks about how women, how you have to get women pregnant by the age of like 25. Otherwise, their eggs go bad or whatever, right? Like, conservatism specifically sexualizes underage girls because they like to think that underage girls are the most fertile, right? They want to fuck 13-year-old girls because they think they're the most fertile, and their whole idea is that they want a subservient woman to be their slave, to do both, yes, all the chores, but also to make them all of their food, to wait on them, and of course to do all of the baby making and the sexual stuff as well. That's like their dream, right? It's where the classic like Nazi dudes who have like 4 foot tall like Asian wives that they got basically like through sex trafficking more or less, to come to America and bring them there. Like, we've all seen the subreddit. We all know the memes about like white Nazi dudes who get like really small Asian wives from foreign countries that won't talk back to them or say no to them. Like, we all know of that thing, right? We all know of that, right? Like, we all know that they're really weird people. They're really, really weird people, these right-wing pedophile types. So stay away from them. Keep your kids away from them, and you should be all right. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like, and of course, subscribing if you want to see more from me, and ring the bell icon so YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload a new video. And of course, if you're watching live right now or you're watching the video, leave a like, because not only does liking the stream help the stream out a lot, but liking the video also helps the video out a lot. And it's completely free and it takes 1 click, so please consider hitting it. And of course, if you want to see more from me on social media, you can follow it all down below, all linked in the description of the video and the stream, including my Instagram, my TikTok, my Discord, and of course, my Twitter. So please follow all of that. And of course, if you've got the money for it and you don't need it for anything and you just don't know what to do with it and you want to support me financially over on my stream to keep me going, then you can always donate, subscribe, or gift a sub over on my website. You could always donate a TTS message or a media share through Streamlabs, or you can donate or support me through YouTube and Twitch. But no matter how you watch my content, how you support me, whether it be through a like, a comment, a view, or even a financial donation, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I hope to see you again very, very soon, and have a good one.